So good afternoon. Today we are going to start with the second type of simple diffusion, that is diffusion through protein lined channels. So these type of diffusions are generally seen in case of ions. As we had previously discussed that ions, they are unable to cross the lipid bilayer. So the lipid bilayer will be very much uh, impermeable to all the, very much impermeable to the membranes. But we see that there are a lot of functions which requires ions to cross the membrane, like for impulse to propagate, even for muscle contraction, then any messages what is being circulated through nerves, opening and closing of stomata. So lot many things, a lot many times we see that ions crosses the lipid bilayer. Even the uptake of calcium, all these requires ions to cross the membrane. So that it is required to cross ion across the membrane, but the lipid bilayer is impermeable to it. So definitely there will be some means by through these ions are crossing the membrane. So the scientists found that membrane proteins mediate the transport of all the ions across biomembranes, as these forms a bridge across the membrane to facilitate the ions to cross. Hence, these are known as ion channels, which are opening in the membrane that are permeable to specific ions. It can exist in either a closed or an open configuration. Mean when ions are required to cross, they will be opened, and just after they cross, it will be closed. Hence, these ion channels are often called gated. So most of the ion channels are gated. Hence, when it is required, they will allow the ions to cross through this gate, or if it is not allowed, they will not open these gates so that the ions can't cross these gates, and it will be very much impermeable. So with the presence of these protein lined channels, cells are able to control the passage of these charged molecules. These ion channels are extremely rapid. Mean the diffusion through these ion channels will be extremely rapid. Several thousands and thousands of ions can cross within a microsecond. And these are highly selectable. As I told you earlier just now, that these ion channels are very specific. So only one type of ion can cross a single type of these channels. So these are highly specific. No other ions will be allowed to cross these other than the specific one. So these ion channels are very specific to what they have to allow to cross. And these, as I told you just now, that these are gated, so these will not be permanently open. So sometimes these will be opened, and once the work is over, it will be closed. So based on the way these ion channels are opened and closed, these ion channels can be categorized under three different types. First one is voltage gated channels. Very simple, like ions have charge, and the moment these ions comes to these protein channels, they will be opened based on the voltage. I mean, one side of the protein will get the charge and will change the configuration of the whole protein, because there will be very much difference in the one from one side of the protein to other side, because one side these ions will contribute their will uh, give the charge to that amino acid, and on the other side the whole protein will get its configuration changed. Configuration means the shape of the whole protein will get changed, and this is how it is opened. And sometime it is closed as well, as in a same manner. So voltage gated channels are controlled by the presence and absence of ionic charges on the both side of the membrane. So second one is the ligand gated channels. Ligand mean anything which binds to the proteins present on the plasma membrane is called ligand. Anything which binds to the protein. So anything, if it comes and binds to channel, and if the binding of that ligand changes the whole configuration and opens the way, these types of channels will be specified under ligand gated channels, where some or another some or another ligand comes and binds to the protein and opens the channel. Opening of the channel will give the way to ions to cross across the membrane, and once it has gone inside, it will close. Example of these can be seen during neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters mean where the nerve impulse are being transmitted. We have studied in class 10th, you had that neurons, they uh, they are neurotransmitters, and they transmit through axons, and while transmitting through axons, they synthesize a specific chemical known as acetylcholine. And these acetylcholines, these binds to the receptor and opens the channel so that the ions can cross into the another cells. So the third one is mechanogated canals, where the mechanical strength, which may be surface tension, which may be pressure, which may be any force or any sound waves or anything. So these type of uh, mechanical forces that actually triggers the opening or the closure of these canals. So here examples can be seen in some auditory nerves or anything where the vibration of the eardrum makes the changes. So these are the three types of gated channels which actually regulates the flow of ion inside out the plasma membrane. So coming to the third type of diffusion, that is facilitated diffusion. So it's again the type of passive transport. These passive transport thing also will do what? It will transport the molecule from higher concentration to a lower concentration one. So here what happens, the molecule first binds to one particular protein, then the configuration of the whole protein changes, and then it eventually allows that protein to come inside. Mean it exposes it to the inside environment where it further diffuses. So diffusion is being facilitated by presence of one particular protein. So here in figure you can see the green one is the protein and the red one is the substance. Here in this case it glucose. So glucose first binds with this green protein, and binding of this changes the configuration. See the um, see actually the shape of this particular you can see this the shape of this protein changes. Actually in the first one is the native protein, and you can see in the second what it is. One this glucose comes and binds to it, and then the whole protein flips upside down. So the whole configuration changes and the molecule is exposed to inner environment now. And when it is exposed to inner environment, it dissociates and diffuses into the inner environment. And it leaves the protein, and the protein and the protein further recovers its native shape. This is how it facilitates the diffusion, and this type of protein is known as facilitative transporters, which is facilitating the diffusion of this macromolecule, which was initially unable to cross the biomembrane. So the crossing of this macromolecule is being facilitated by one particular protein known as facilitative transporter, and the whole process is known as facilitated diffusion. So with these three types, we are completing the passive transport. Was it clear enough? Okay, let's move further. The next one is active transport. So active transport is the movement of molecules across the membrane from a region of lower concentration to a region of higher concentration. That is the movement against the concentration gradient. So the passive was along the gradient, and this active is against the concentration gradient. So definitely it will require energy. Like uh, In previous class, I had told you that if you have to move water from ground to first floor, you need expense of energy, and you need a motor to transfer the ground level water to the first floor. So this process will require cellular energy to achieve this movement. So based on how they are utilizing the energy, they will utilize the energy for sure, but how they are utilizing the energy, whether they are utilizing energy very much on the site, or they are just utilizing energy being consumed somewhere else, and that particular energy is being used somewhere else. So based on that, we have two types of active transport, primary and secondary. One thing you need to have very clear in mind, in your mind, that active transport will use energy for sure, whether it is using at the site or it is consuming somewhere else and using somewhere else. You can understand this thing by one example, that you use motor to take out the underground water and store it into a water tank and use in your own house. Mean in a single house you can have motor undergrounded. You switch on the motor, you fill the tank and use it whole day. Here you are using energy at the site where you are utilizing the energy. You are using the energy at the site where you are consuming that you are doing that work. But think about another situation where in a corporation they uh, take out water in a bulk, they store it into a big tank. From there, they supply it to everywhere. They are not utilizing that water at the site. Rather, they are distributing it to everywhere. And at the houses, we people are utilizing it. So here, the energy is used, but the energy is not used at the site where the energy is not used at the site where it is consumed. So in the primary active transport, it uses energy ATP at the site where this energy is utilized for transport. But in case of secondary active transport, it uses energy but not at the site where it is transporting. So let's see the difference. So primary active transport, the example can be a sodium potassium pump, where sodium pump, it has an enzyme ATPase, which breaks down one phosphate molecule from adenosine triphosphate and makes it adenosine diphosphate, and that energy what was there in the last bond is being used to transport sodium from one side of membrane to outside the membrane, mean from intracellular space to extracellular space. The sodium is pumped out using energy. So this one is an example of primary active transport where ATP is being used by the same protein which is actually pumping the sodium out. In case of secondary active transport, the energy is used somewhere else, and here a gradient was made, and that gradient is being used by some other function. Mean gradient was made somewhere else, and here along the gradient uh, that flow is there, and flow is being used to make the flow is being used for some other property, for some other work. So it's actually a coupled transport, mean two different types, two different way. In one, the gradient is made, and another, the gradient is used further. Example can be seen in case of ATP synthase. The ATP synthase is the molecule which actually makes ATP. So here what you see, the green apparatus like thing, this is ATP synthase, which uses the flow of proton down. It is outside the membrane, and the green side is the inner chamber. It is found in the matrix of mitochondria. So the green one is is towards the matrix, and the downside from where you are able to see the proton is coming is the inner membranous space, mean outer space of mitochondria, in between the inner membrane and outer membrane. So actually, along with this, there are three different proteins are there which actually uses energy to pump these proton out. So proton concentration will be at the peak in the intermembranous space in between the inner membrane and outer membrane of mitochondria, and these protons comes towards the matrix through this ATP synthase, what you see here in the picture. So these protons are coming through this apparatus, and while coming inside, they are transferring their energy so that this molecule can synthesize ATP from ADP. So using that energy, these ADP gets an extra phosphate attached to its last domain, and this is how it is synthesizing ATP again. So ATP synthase, it is not actually utilizing energy directly, but it is consuming energy at the adjacent protein. So this is an example of secondary active transport. So with this, we are finishing the membrane transport system. So hope you have understood it well. So in the next class, let's meet to study some other organelle. Thank you.